Alright, and we are live. Welcome back to another video, Astro RPG. Thanks for joining me for this. I've got with me Radar and Cleaver today. How are you, boys?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, good.
So we were talking, and young man Radar over here brought up something interesting. This new A500 Mini that's coming out, which is a console that has classic games on it. Explain, Radar. Coming out April 8th. I thought it'd be an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah, so the makers of retro gaming, I think they call themselves, or retro games, brought out the C64, and they're bringing this one out as well, the A500. So the mini, they're calling it. So it's obviously a miniature version of the real one,
Right.
full size one back in the day, back in the anyone that grew up in it, it was the 80s and probably early 90s for some. A500, then they went on to the 2000s and so forth. There's not too much information brought out other than they're saying there's 25 games will come out on the base system, like a carousel through menu options that you can play the games like Alien Breed.
Yeah.
3Ds on there, Another World, Battle Chess, that's a good old classic that I've played myself a few times. Pinball Dreams, Speedball 2, many people probably know that one.
So it's mainly old
Worms.
games.
Oh
Well,
yeah, it's
yeah.
it's old classics. Yeah,
S-
anyone that's used to they
So it's a
played them
mini
at
version.
Commodore 64. Yeah, miniature version.
Introducing the A500
Um,
Mini, a compact reimaging of the Amiga 500 home computer. So this
hmm.
Amiga
Do you know?
500, what's that? Is that something that...
Well, it was pretty much an all-in-one computer system back in the
Mm,
90s, but mainly it was used for games. Really, let's be
yeah,
honest.
So
It
it's an
was
old
a
school
gaming
gaming computer.
pretty much, and it was
pretty much.
and it come
Commodore
around.
64 came. Yeah, so Commodore
Yeah,
64 came out, and a lot of people were playing games on that. It was in competition with Atari and the likes, and the graphics back in the day on it was pretty good. And then there were always rumours that Commodore would bring out another game on the 64 sort of 8-bit, but this one came out and basically took over the Commodore 64, and the games were running 16-bit. Sound was stereo.
Yeah.
Um, Thousands and thousands of games on 3.5-inch floppy disks. That's going back
Yeah,
way
right.
back. We don't use
and
that. You don't see them anymore.
back in
Um,
those days, you didn't buy games either. Just quietly.
just quietly.
We don't condone pirating on
No,
this
no, we
channel.
don't. We don't. No, we don't. But
But
um,
if
but
a
then it
pirated
but
was the
copy
only way to
should
get
fall
good
into your lap.
games.
Yeah, fair enough.
that's true. But see, the beauty of this one, the A500 Mini, is that it'll run into your new TVs, so HDMI into your TVs.
Yeah.
You don't need to have RCA ports or any adapters or whatever else to change over. It'll have a number of USB ports on there. Comes with a full size, although slightly smaller from what I've seen in some videos, mouse, 2-button mouse.
Yeah.
For some of the games like Battle Chess that was mouse driven.
Right.
Um, and but the things I haven't really said or I haven't seen videos on is whether it will actually run a hard drive file. So most of the games that I've seen on videos and small little reviews of what's been leaked is games that are run on what they call a WHD load format. So
Yeah.
it's essentially it's a hard drive file. The game will be, I guess, is probably the best way of saying it, where you'll be able to load the game from a USB port. So you yourself could have a catalogue of games that you've sourced from somewhere. I won't say where, Cleaver, and
Well,
stick it on your USB stick
yeah, I
and
was
be
just
able to
reading that.
load all those
So
old
it says here
classics.
you can load
Yeah,
your own games via USB, supported by a number of settings and options. So when it
And
releases with 25 games, is that right? And then you can just use
yep,
your USB with whatever else you've got.
correct. Yeah. So I've got the 64 Mini that came out, and the carousel on that has 64 games it was released with.
Right.
And as the firmware versions came out, after the initial one, it allowed for USB load. So you could stick a USB in, it will come up with a little icon saying that it's detected you've got a USB in. I'm assuming that this will be the same because this hasn't been released as yet. It's around the corner. So yeah, I'm assuming the little USB icon would come up. You could select that from the carousel and it would show a catalogue of all your games. And you could run it in, much like the C64, you could have it in folders. So if you had, 60 odd games in alphabetical order, you could have an A folder, a B folder, a C folder, etc. if you really wanted to be OCD about it.
Yeah, right. Right, so it looks like it's just got like, it looks like a keyboard. Is that it?
Well,
Yeah,
the machine's built in, yeah.
The machine, yeah. So it's an emulator, and we've got to be honest. It's not going to be a miniature version of the real thing. It's an emulator, but they've emulated it as close as they could possibly do it as the real thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people that are probably already running emulators on their PCs anyway, but this is just putting it into a console type system that you can put into your TV. The kids can play. It has a little keypad. You could buy another keypad if you wanted to for the two-player games. The keypad is very similar to an Amiga system they brought back out in the day called the Amiga 32 CD, I think it was.
Yeah.
Which had the very same gamepad style.
Yeah.
So they've really tried to keep the Commodore signature items of each of the models.
So it's like an old school Commodore 64, essentially, kind of.
Yeah, it's
little bit better.
Commodore Amiga. Commodore Amiga.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yep. I'm just playing a video in the background now with so it's got an old school mouse, like a little rectangle mouse.
Yep.
An old school controller.
Old school two-button mouse, looking at the a laser mouse. It's not it doesn't have balls.
Yeah.
The mouse doesn't. So I'll say that now. Yeah, it's a modern day version of the old mouse. So two-button.
Oh gee, I remember having to clean that ball so many times.
Yeah. Pull the balls out, clean it.
Nothing like a good ball clean.
That.
So.
Well,
so
I
just
wasn't going to go there, but,
but I did. Don't worry about it. So product features. It's got here. Apologies if you watch this video. My camera flips, so it looks like I'm looking away from the screen. Recreates the A500, A600, and A1200 models. Save and resume your progress at any time. Add your own games through USB stick. 720 HD display at 50 Hz or 60 Hz USA. So that's 50 Hz Europe. Multiple scaling options and CRT filter.
Just on that. So just on that, Astro, so the early prototype that was released, if anyone wants to look up the video, Retro's, just trying to think it, Retro Recipes.
Right.
Put a YouTube video out only a couple of days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, of the prototype.
Retro Recipes. I can.
Retro Recipes, yeah. So
that
was about 3 or 4 days ago they released it. Now, coming back onto the 50-60 Hertz thing, he went through the menu options that on this prototype, and it did say on the menu that the 50 Hertz would actually run more to the realistic frames back in the day. So 60 frames I'm assuming it would be slightly laggy compared to what it'd be if you were to run it at 50 Hertz. So if the TV can do 50 Hertz, they're recommending do it. Otherwise, use 60.
Yeah, okay.
Just FYI. I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, we're sort of getting little snippets of what it looks like now as well from his video. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So it was released, the original Amiga 500 was released in 87. It's a long time ago. At least for me.
Were you going to say something, Clint?
Makes me old.
I was just going to say, you said it's an emulator. Is there like anything on the system specs? Are they running like similar to what they had in the old Amiga 500? Which I think the old one was a 512 kilobyte video memory, and then you could upgrade that to 1 megabyte. So
so I don't know what options you'll be able to do. I know they're emulating it to be as close to 500 as possible, but as Astro just said, on what he's read, it'll do emulation of the 600 and 1200. Did you say, Astro?
12,
so those ones did have a little bit more memory in them.
Yes.
Like the 600 didn't have a numeric keypad, for instance, but it had an inbuilt hard drive. So I can only assume that they're probably going to have 1 gig instead of the 512 of memory, assumptions because I
Yeah.
haven't seen one firsthand. The CPU specs back in the day were about 7 megahertz, so I'd imagine that it's not going to be much faster than that. If it
Yep.
can do a 600 and a 1200, then it might go a little bit quicker. But I think I think from memory, if you had a CPU card in your device, you can get 14 megahertz as a turbo type speed on it, but 14 megahertz from 7's not really a great deal. Yeah,
And
it's double,
what's
but
it's got here multiple scaling options and CRT filter. What's that? Do you know?
yeah.
So
So if you're wanting to really replicate it from back in the day, like if you wanted to run it as a CRT looking screen,
Yeah.
then it would have some scaling lines through it to emulate it as a CRT. Or if you wanted to have it as crystal sharp imaging, then you'd have those options there to play with.
Right. Virtual keyboard and USB keyboard support, upgradable firmware. So that's what the features are at the moment.
I think
Yeah,
Interesting.
for
so the
the
key
price, it's going to be
for
awesome.
yeah, it's 100,
But
199
what's
Australian.
right?
The keyboard on there is just plastic. It's solid. It's not
Yeah.
Yeah.
functional.
So what are you
The
saying? You
the
wouldn't
Oh,
use
the
it?
so that's not functional.
No, it's not a functional keyboard. It's a
Ah,
it's
so
a
it's just the look
miniature
of it. So it's
version
just
of.
like a console look type of thing. That's the look of
Yep,
the console.
it's
Oh,
exactly what it
okay.
is. It's just a
Right.
look.
Well, I mean, with the
Yeah.
Amiga, you shut it off and turned it on with the disc in. It was pretty much
Yeah.
effectively a console because you turned it on with the disc in to boot the game that you wanted to run.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, it'd be a similar process, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah, so you probably on the Amiga 500 you probably wouldn't use the keyboard that much anyway. If you did, there is a virtual keyboard that would show up on the side. Um, so on the Mini 64 that I've got, the virtual keyboard shows up on the side, and you just use your joystick or gamepad in this case to scroll up and down to the letter that you want and press it. Yes, it's a bit cumbersome and slow and whatever because
Yeah.
you can only push up and down, but you can plug in a keyboard and you can use the PC keyboard, USB keyboard, and
Right.
you get
Nice.
the same results anyway.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you're really only going to be
There
playing
is,
games on it, so I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
see
that's
the.
right. And
I mean,
there
I
is,
only ever.
there is.
I was
I was
just
going
going
to
to say,
say
I
there,
only ever got into the operating system by accident.
yeah, yeah. There is talk that they may bring out a full size version. So when they released the Commodore 64 or the 64 Mini, they did bring out a 64 Maxi, they called it, which was a full size replica of the 64 back in the day, the Commodore 64, and it had a fully functional keyboard that you could use without having to plug in a USB one. So there is talk they may do the same thing, but I can't imagine anyone wanting to buy a full size Amiga 500 just for
I
the
don't.
sake of a
Yeah, I
functional
don't.
keyboard.
I don't think I'd go there. I prefer to get this and
Yeah.
just, yeah, pretty much play the games off that. I mean,
Yeah, because
for
it's.
the
I mean,
price, you know.
yeah,
Oh,
it is an emulator at the end of the day, and having such a big device with such a little computer inside and in built into it just for the sake of having a functional keyboard, I don't.
so
Yeah,
before I
Yeah,
get
like
to
I used
what's
to
in the
have an
box,
A500. I
go
had
go.
an A500, and they were big. They were big.
So before I get to what's in
yeah,
the box, what's stopping the savvy person from running emulators from their own PC?
Nothing,
Nothing.
nothing.
at all.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
And
hang on.
it's
No, that's not exactly true. You need to know
yeah,
the emulator you're using,
Yeah.
and to get the
yeah,
best
true.
out of it. Whereas these
Yeah,
guys would
true.
have done that, and they would have custom built it to run Amiga games.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, additional to that, they've actually got the licensing rights to use
Yes,
this. So
and the
so
games.
it's
Yeah,
and the games. So the games that are on there, they've got fully licensed to put on there. So you probably find
pirate,
that
So
they
no
won't
technically,
pirating.
so running your own
no
emulator on
pirating.
your own,
Yeah,
running your own
yeah.
emulators, is that technically pirating? Is it? I don't know too much about that, or not really.
Uh, no, look,
It's a
I'll be
grey area. I'd say it's a grey
it's
area.
a shady
yeah.
spot. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, because
Look, I'll
if
be
you were running Nintendo games,
Yeah.
that's definitely
I,
they would see
they
that as
don't. They don't
pirating.
like that. Nintendo are hard
No,
ass. Yeah.
they are hard ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I'll be honest. I do have the emulator on the PC, and I do have some of the original games that I had from the Amiga back in the day. Like Wings was a really good flight simulator. I call it a simulator. It was an arcade type simulator for the Amiga. Um, but it was one of those games that it was like, it had a career mode that you could go through, fly sorties, number of kills, you got promotions, you got awards, that sort of stuff. And my brother and I love that sort of game, and we saved it on the hard drive, and we sold our machine. And I managed to work at one stage where the machine was sold at some 5 years later. The hard drive from that computer was still there, so I actually retrieved all our old saved games, and I've still got them. So I'm looking forward to be able to put it into this device and see if I can still play my old saved games. But that's an example of where I've used an emulator on my PC and been able to use it on the PC. Um, just means I can plug it straight into the TV without having to sit at a desk or have my kids play it even in front of the lounge room instead of sitting at a desk
Yeah.
on a small monitor. So
Yeah, right. Um, all right, so what's in the box? The A500 Mini home computer, 25 built-in games. I'll go through them in a sec. USB mouse, USB gamepad, HDMI cable, the USB-C power cable, and a quick guide. So it's
yeah,
just
so it doesn't
essentially plug and
important.
play.
Yeah, an important note: it doesn't come with a power adapter.
So USB-C cable only, right? Okay, so you need the actual
Yeah.
adapter, which is
So you have
yeah,
to,
I'm with you.
yeah. So on the 64 Mini, it was a 5 volt USB charger. So like
Yeah,
an old Apple iPhone charger would be more than enough. It was a
yeah,
2 amp 5 volt power adapter, USB power adapter. That's all you need is one of them. And most people with an old mobile phone, they've probably got an old power supply in the drawer somewhere. If it's 5 volts, 2 amps, that's all it needs.
Yep.
right.
This
Okay.
docker will have all of your requirements. If it's, if it'll run a higher one or whatever, then it'll say it in there. So
And
in the box.
what's the pre-orders like? Are they readily available or
Yeah, so
Well,
Big W, this is Australia. Big
yeah,
W, JB Hi-Fi's,
EB Games
EB
have got it.
Games.
Guerrilla
Yep, they've all
Gaming
got.
AU, Oz Game Shop.
yeah.
Yep, there's a lot of
Um,
people have
I will
got these.
say though, Big W's got the best price that I saw, which was
What's that?
flat
AUD.
199,
199. Yep,
and I think
that's
EB
where I've got
Games
mine.
was like 95 cents on top of that,
Okay.
which is negligible.
So the old school
Yeah,
games, Alien. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't heard of many of these. Alien Breed 3D, Alien Breed Special Edition 92, Another World, Arcade Pool, ATR All Terrain Racing, Battle Chess, Cadavia, I think that says California Games. There's a classic. Uh,
That is the classic California Games for
yes,
sure.
Dragon's
yep.
Dragon's Breath. Is California Games the one with the what's that little ball that you kick in the air? Oh, what's
No,
it?
it's a hacky
Yeah,
sack.
Hacky
It's
sack.
hacky sack.
Hacky sack. Is that's California Games? Yeah.
That's California
Oh, that's
Games.
That's
hilarious.
yeah. It also had frisbee throwing in there
Yeah.
as
Yes.
well.
That's surfing,
Yes.
skateboarding. Oh, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dragon's Breath, F-16 Combat Pilot, Kickoff 2, Paradroid
Kickoff 2
90.
was good. Yep.
Okay, I haven't played
Yeah.
that. Pinball.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that they didn't have the other classics like Cannon Fodder and things like that. No, that's obviously due to licensing, but
Cannon fodder. Yeah.
Ha!
Cannon Fodder was a classic.
Pinball Dreams, Project X Special Edition 93, Quack, Simon the Sorcerer, Speedball 2, Brutal Deluxe, Stunt Car Racer,
That was
Supercar.
Oh,
awesome.
that was good.
Ha!
That
The
was
old
awesome.
stunt
Yep.
car racer.
These
Oh
guys
my
are showing
god.
their age now. Supercars 2, The Chaos Engine, The Lost Patrol, The Sentinel, Titus the Fox, Worms, the Director's Cut,
Yep, that's a good
Zool,
one.
Ninja of the Ninth. I'm assuming that's ninth. Ninja of the Ninth Dimension. So that's the lineup.
Mm,
Plus
yep.
whatever you've got on your USB stick.
Yeah. That's
And
right.
there's a lot of games you can download off the net now. So
There is. Yeah, there's archive websites that.
yep.
Yeah, they're all over. Google it. You will
Yeah.
find.
So there you go. If you love your retro, I did do a kind of a retro gaming stream last night because it was a remastered version, but it was from a game that was definitely from the 90s. So if that's your thing, I just thought it was interesting that we started talking about this tonight, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to put up a video. So, anything else you want to add to this, fellas, or we pretty much covered most of everything?
I think yeah. Look, I'm happy to talk about it when I actually get mine. I've got
Yeah,
pre-orders on.
actually, that'll be good.
So
Do a bit of a
and I got mine
review.
from Big W.
Yeah.
So I saved my 95 cents there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, look, when I get it, I'm happy to do a review on my take. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of videos out on it by then anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah. Just
All right.
watch those.
Available April
watch
8th.
those videos.
Watch this space.
Mm.
All right.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, there you go. So if retro gaming is your thing and you don't want to go through the heartache of working out emulators then on your own PC, maybe this is the way to go. Thanks, guys, for the chat. As always,
No worries.
Cleaver and Raider.
Anytime.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like the video. Always helps. Come and send us a follow as well on Facebook. I stream regularly with these guys and solo from time to time. That's pretty much it. I'll see you guys soon. Peace. Catch ya.